Creative Parenting with Nina Meehan is brought to you by Bay Area Children's Theater.
Today's guest is Marla Sokoloff. Marla is an actor, writer, and director. Over the years, she has had roles on fan favorites such as The Practice, Party of Five, Friends, and Desperate Housewives. In addition to starring in several notable movies, including Whatever It Takes, Sugar and Spice, and Dude, Where's My Car? While Sokoloff has worked full-time as an actress for the past 27 years, she has recently honed in on her love of writing and directing. Sokoloff has channeled her writing and directing passions into concrete projects, selling her debut directorial short-form series, Mom Brain, to Hello Sunshine, Reese Witherspoon's lifestyle and entertainment brand for moms. The series, which is based on the short Preschool in LA, which Sokoloff directed, wrote, and starred in, was a viral hit, getting over 1 million views on Awestruck in just 48 hours. Marla lives in Los Angeles with her husband Alec and their 2 daughters, Elliot and Olive, and she is expecting her 3rd. She recently directed Blending Christmas, which airs on December 12th on Lifetime. I had such a wonderful time speaking with Marla. I mean, to be totally direct, I was fangirling a lot because, of course, I grew up watching her on television, and she is so delightful and such a wonderful and inspiring presence. And her conversation, particularly, you'll hear her talk about how she got into directing. And it was such a wonderful moment in remembering that sometimes we just got to make it happen ourselves. So enjoy Marla. Marla, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Can we start by chatting about your journey as a creative human? You're an actress, a singer, a director. How did your journey start as a childhood? What did creativity look like to you when you were young?
I would say my first memory of wanting to be, an artistic, creative person was when I was probably about 3 years old. And I don't know if you remember in the 80s, like we used to have like pump toothpaste bottles, like they were like upright. You know those?
Yes, and they always get clogged, and
yes,
like you couldn't actually get the toothpaste out.
Yeah, 100%, they were messy. They were disgusting. But that was my microphone. And so I remember going around the house and performing into my toothpaste pump bottle. And it was generally Madonna. And I would put on, like the frilly skirt 80s outfit. And like, I had a glove, the whole thing. And so that was my look. And I would go around the house and I would just perform for my family. And I think that's when they knew that there was something in me that had to be addressed.
My 80s child is fangirling after your fake Madonna outfit, just like my inner 4-year-old would have, like the glove. Oh
yeah.
boy. I mean,
yeah.
that was kind of everything, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I remember I had like the 45. This is very much aging me right now, but like I had a record player and the Madonna, like what was her first record? I remember her in like a Tool tutu kind of a thing. It was black and white, maybe. With all the hits on it. It was so great.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. My first record was a chorus line. So
amazing.
We were in the musical theater world in a very big way in my family.
Yeah, I was definitely a mesh there.
We also did a lot of leaping around the living room. Like I remember dancing in the living room was a very big thing in our house.
But
that's the
so
toothpaste bottle is fantastic.
Yeah.
So now you when you think of your creative journey as an adult, I mean, you've had this incredible career. I am over here. Not only is my 4-year-old self fangirling, like my adult self is also fangirling right now because you've just had this amazing, incredible creative journey. You've had all these wonderful characters that you've brought to life that have affected so many people so positively. But what are like 2 or 3 big moments that stand out to you that maybe they're not the big ones that like we, the public, are like, oh my gosh, but that have had real impact on you as a creative person?
The one that sticks out the most for me is I got a job, 3 episodes only on a little show called The Practice. And, I had never heard of the show before. I was playing the secretary. They wanted like a 25-year-old. I was 17. I was still in high school. And like somehow I got this 3-episode thing and it was so exciting. And then I remember as the day went on, everybody kept saying, oh, we have to wait around. David Kelly, the big creator, is coming down to make an announcement. And nobody knew what it was. I didn't know what it was. And he came down and he had flowers and he's like, we would love to offer you a permanent position on this show. We, love the work you're doing. It was just so surreal. Um, and I'm not even sure, like, now looking back on it, if I truly realized in that moment how much that would impact me and change my life just in that single
Yeah.
solitary moment.
And I mean, what did your 17-year-old self like, how did you even process that moment? Like, I'm thinking about my 17-year-old self and like I was very much about like, can I make sure that I can get to the Rocky Horror Picture the show this weekend with my friends? Like, and you're having David Kelly like hand you flowers and be like, "Yeah, so we love you."
Yeah.
How did that feel inside?
It's funny. I was also like on your wavelength of wanting to like be a teenager too. And I was in normal school and I took the time off to do these episodes. And, then it was like, no, you're not going back to school. Actually, you're going to be, finishing out your senior year here on set. And so, yeah, a lot of that had changed. And the reason I went back to school is I would say about a year prior, I was done with acting. I just really wanted to be a normal kid. I wanted to go to high school. I wanted to go to prom. I wanted to do all of those things. And this was something that had kind of landed in my lap. An agent had called me that I was working with who just said, they can't find this girl. Just go in, just try it. And I went on a whim. So I was like it was like a push and pull for me too. I really wanted to experience because I hadn't really done it yet, life as just a normal teenager. So I didn't miss out on all that stuff. So I'm grateful for that time period of frustration and creative, like the rejection and the wall hitting and all that stuff that us actors have to deal with constantly. I'm grateful for that time because I got to go and, just try to be quote unquote normal for a little bit.
I appreciate you talking about the wall hitting and the that the process of getting that rejection because I think one of the things that is so easy to assume is that oh well you've had a successful career so it's always been successful but actually there's no such thing as like a straight path like it just doesn't exist it doesn't exist in a non-creative world and it doesn't exist in the world of a creative as well.
Yeah.
So for you, how I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I want to talk about parenting. So I'm just going to kind of drop that in there. How has the fact that you have lived your life in that universe of sometimes it flows, and sometimes you hit that wall and you get that rejection, how does that influence your parenting?
That's such a good question. It's such a good question. Like you're giving me chills because I feel like I learned so much about myself once I had children and how I was behaving in that set of rejection and the way it makes you feel about yourself. And I would come home before I had kids, and if I didn't get a job or if my career wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, I would sit on the couch and cry and order pizza and like woe is me and let it really affect me. And I'd be super grumpy. And when I had kids, especially because I have girls, it's like, no, sis, you can't act like that anymore. You have to just like maybe on your drive home, you could be a little disappointed and use some dirty words, but by the time I got home, I couldn't be like, "Oh, sorry, mommy's in a really bad mood today. I didn't get this part I wanted." It's just about as ridiculous as it gets. So it actually trained me to, I mean, listen, I still have moments of being frustrated and the rejection gets to me and all that kind of stuff. But where it's so much, it's such a finite amount of time now that I live in that like headspace. And kids are the best thing to kind of remind you of what's important. It's not that one job, and there's a reason that door closed and all of that good stuff. So I really like credit me being a mom to helping me survive a lot of that stuff.
That what you just described is like I remember that journey resonates with me so much and and that pre-kids like as I was building a nonprofit company there were so many setbacks and I would let it get me so down. It was like, "Oh, this is so hard." And then, I just experienced a newborn and I was like, "Oh, wait, I thought I knew what hard was."
Yeah.
Never mind. We're
Yeah.
good.
Nothing's harder than a newborn.
Not at all. So you are now a mom. You have two girls. What does creativity look like in your life now with your kids?
It's so funny. They're at different ages, but they're really interested in different things. Now they're only 3 years apart, but it's pretty amazing how different their interests are. But I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm not like good with like arts and crafts. I'm not, I want to be. I follow a lot of Instagram accounts that are going to help me to, get better at such things, but I'm really quite terrible at it. So I try to get creative with them in different ways. We like to cook. I love a dance party too. I love that kind of stuff. As far as like being crafty, mom, I would give myself like a solid D in that.
So I love that, Marla, because actually one of the things that I love to talk about on this podcast, it is in my head, creative parenting is not about like, I too follow the Instagram accounts, but I don't have time. I really admire the people who do. And that's a beautiful thing. But like creativity is about like what you are excited to do and how you bring play to
Mhm.
your parenting. And it doesn't have to fit in a box. It doesn't have to fit in this very specific way of thinking about, oh, well, I can't draw a unicorn with my 6-year-old, so I'm not an artsy mom.
Mhm.
Well, actually, there are lots of ways of being an artsy mom. So I kind of love that you're talking about that, because it's something that I think a lot of parents do need to hear is like, you don't have to be the Instagram perfect. That's not
And that's, I think,
necessarily
really
everyone's
ruined.
definition.
I think that's ruined a lot of moms too. Seeing what other moms are doing, especially like holiday times, like the Halloween crafts. I'm like, I will happily carve a pumpkin with you, but I can't make, orange and black Play-Doh. I don't like the mess. It makes me crazy. Like, there's just so many things that, like, you've really had to adapt as a mom, just like letting certain things go. But my kids know, like, we don't have glitter in our house because mom will literally have to be sent away to an institution. I can't handle it. But my daughter is taking acting classes at school because they have an after school program. And she came home with her script, and I was like, I can help you with this. Like, let me help you. She kind of was getting very territorial about her project. And I'm like, use me. Like, I would love for this to be something we do together. So, totally hear what you're saying. It's like you have to find the things that you shine at, and really hone in on those. So, for the other ones, when they want to bring slime in, then you could say that is not mom's department. I don't do well with the slime.
I mean, who does really do well with slime? If you're
Hate
out there
it.
and you do well with slime, more power to
Good for
you.
you. Yes.
But so tell me about that moment. Okay, so your daughter comes home and she's got the script. So I feel like there's like two ways this could go. You say, "Oh my gosh, I could help you." And your daughter turns around and slams the door in your face and says, "Are you kidding me?" Or you actually have an opportunity to embrace something together that you have made your living at and have
Yeah.
shown at it across. So how did that go? What was
Well,
what
it's funny.
happened in
One of
that
the main
moment?
questions I get asked all the time. Hold on. My housekeeper's here. If this is like affecting the recording, well, let me know and I could tell her to be quiet because I could hear her like banging something. But just as an aside, just pop in and let me know if I need to go talk to her. Um, so one of the main
Just so you
questions.
know, Marla, I can't hear you,
You
so
can
I
hear,
think you're
okay,
good.
maybe because she's like right there. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? You like banging on a wall? I'm not sure what's happening. But one of the main things that I get asked, I mean, I would say it's like the most popular question after "Did you really smoke on Full House?" is, "Will you let your kids be actors?" And it's such a touchy subject for me because I was a child actor and my parents did it in a way that I believe was the best way possible to get it done. They were really supportive. They didn't push. My mom wasn't a stage mom. But I do wholeheartedly believe that it's a love you have to find on your own because you got to really love it because of what we were just talking about, because of the long time periods you go without working, of the way it makes you feel about yourself sometimes. So I always say to them, after you're done with school, like stay in school. No one's dropping out of school and going to homeschooling. Like that's never happening. But go to school, take the classes, see if you like it, find the thing you like, and then I will be here like to guide you and support you and help you all the way. So she wanted to take this acting class at school. And not gonna lie, when I saw like, you could take soccer, you could take acting class, there's dance, there's, cooking, there's like 8 million things. And she picked that. I was like, why? Why do you want to do that? Don't you want to learn how to
Yep.
play the clarinet? It's so much more rewarding. But, she really wanted to do it. And so then I, really leaned in and I got excited for her. And, now she knows that it's not professional or any of that kind of stuff. So I think she trusts me and she's been to set a bunch of times. So she knows, that I somewhat know what I'm talking about. So it has been like a really nice thing that we do together. But sometimes like I do have that like artistic brain where I'm like, no, why aren't you getting that line? Like you keep messing that line. You have to go back. And then when I start sensing I'm doing that, I'm like, oh no, maybe I'm not the right person to help her with.
What I'm hearing that I think is so admirable is you're reflecting on your own experience and understanding that it was your unique experience and really allowing your own children to have their unique own experience. And if
Yeah,
if that if their heart is saying, "Hey, yo, this acting thing, this is me," that you'll be there, but that you're letting them drive that train.
totally.
And I think that's something that is so important. As parents, it's so easy to grab and try and control. And particularly, you do have the experience to know how if you wanted to be like, I'm gonna get you into acting, like you totally could. But you're choosing to take that deep breath, to take that step back, to have them, in essence, come to you and say, "Hey, this is the thing I'm interested in." And in our current universe with I have lots of opinions about the term helicopter parenting, but there is this world right now where we feel so much pressure to try and control the direction of our child's path. And I just want to listen and admire to the fact that you're saying, I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to reverse engineer it and say, if it's chess, cool. If it's acting, great. It happens. I actually have some extra help I can give you.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I have a lot of friends now whose kids have agents. It's like, listen, I live in Los Angeles, so we all have access to it. So they're asking me all the time, why don't you ever get Elliot an agent? Or because she has it in her, like I could see it. She's really, got that thing, and she loves to perform. Um, but just like you were saying, I feel like it's when they're that young, it is ultimately you're guiding them. This is really our job, and not in a helicopter way. You're right. It's not helicoptery. It's just I have enough experience from my past to know that isn't really necessarily the best way to go about your childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. So you work full time, you're a mom. How do you personally feed your own creative soul? Because there's this interesting thing where when you work in a creative world, it's sometimes, I don't know, I find that sometimes that's a struggle to be like, it's work, it's feeding, like, so how do you feed your creative soul?
I think that's such a great question now, in the times we're living in, like this pandemic world, because that was probably the hardest
Yes.
part for me when we all went into lockdown is I didn't have that part of me anymore. And it was my first time truly as a mom being in a house with my kids doing every single thing, but nothing was ever my creative outlet. Like that was just gone for, a while. I think I went back to work March 2020. So it was like, what is that? Almost an entire year. Um, oh no, so March 2021, my bad. So it was an entire year. And that was like such a big learning experience for me to have that part like taken away from me I kind of panicked because I hadn't really been in that space ever. Like, so generally the way that I, deal with my creativity and how I need to get it out and how I'm the best mom possible when I am this version is I find the perfect mix. Right now I have two kids in school, so that's very easy. I'm about to not have a child in school. She's going to be a newborn baby. I don't know if I told you that, but I'm having another one. Um,
Congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thank you. So in the meantime, I'm enjoying having children in school until 3. So that's when I get all of my work done. Like I have my project that I'm working on right now next to me, and when we hop off, I'll dig back into that, and I just try to get a lot of that out of the way while they're not in the house. So then when they get home, I could have no problem helping them with homework because that anxiety of like, you have to get back. I mean, unless I'm doing like prep for a movie and like I really am gone. If it's the ebb and flow where I can kind of do the best of both worlds, it's the best version of myself, truly. But if I lose that part of it, that's when I start to kind of panic and think, this I don't think I could be. I mean, stay-at-home mom is the hardest job ever, and I applaud any mom that's able to do that. But I've learned very quickly that that is not the best way for myself to operate. Like, I need to have that other piece of myself that's really a big part of my identity.
I so identify with what you're saying, that ebb and flow and being the best version of yourself if you give yourself the time to do that
Mhm.
creative work. Also, as a mom of 3, welcome to the club
Thank
almost.
you.
Um,
What are the
it
ages
is
of
an
yours?
ex I have a 6, a 10, and a 13.
Okay.
And I will say that 3, I love it because I love the chaos, but it is actually an exponential growth in chaos. So
Oh, shit. Don't tell me that.
but
Oh
it's so
gosh.
much fun. It's so much fun. And that part and watching the big ones, because I used to have like 3 years apart from your first. Like I
It's
have
3, and then
like a
it's gonna
3 year
be
and a
my
four
oldest
year
will be
gap.
10. It's gonna be quite, giant of a gap.
I have to say my oldest was 8 when my little one was born, and there is no heart melt bigger than watching your biggest see this tiny little baby and say, "Mommy, can I hold it? Mommy,
Yeah.
can I help you? Can I feed her?" I mean, you want the waterworks to start, like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's
I'm
so
so here for
beautiful.
all of that.
It's
I cannot wait.
All right, so my next question is gonna be super relevant because as a mom of 3, I think you're gonna get this even more. Okay, so I'm now projecting, I am guessing you get a question that I get a lot, which is, "How do you do it all?" Which is a
Yeah,
question I personally hate. I will be very honest. It's like, no, I actually don't do it all. There's
you
a lot
can't
of
do it
things
all.
I'm terrible at, and
Yeah.
a lot of things that I ask other people to do, and a lot of things that just don't get done. But I have a feeling that you probably have heard that question a few times in your life, and I'm wondering if you could replace that question with something else, what would it be?
You know, I'm like a self-deprecating type of personality. So instead of someone, how do you saying to me like, how do you do it all? Um, I would want them to ask me like more the reality, like you're clearly not doing it all. I can see you're not doing it all, but you're doing not doing it all very well. Like you look like you're doing it all, but you're not. Um, and I like to have real mom conversations, if that makes sense. Like I think again, I'm going to go back to social media. I think that I don't post a ton, but when I do, I'm not posting that like I haven't been able to make a flu shot appointment for my family for it's been on my to-do list for 2 weeks because I literally haven't had the time and it's something so simple or like that I was in my car all day yesterday and that my eyes are a little puffy this morning because I was crying last night because I was so overwhelmed with all of this stuff. I feel so much more comfortable in that space than people thinking I'm doing it all. um, and it's really interesting. This is a total digression, but when I started telling my friends that I got pregnant or that I was pregnant, I waited quite a while to start filling people in on what was going on in our lives, just because it was like our own processing. But like there was a lot of friends who was like, I could never do that. Like I just don't think I have the bandwidth. And I appreciated that so much because it's a lot to take. As you're saying, it's going to be, exponentially harder and more chaotic. But I've made the choice, and my husband and I made the choice to like lean in and go with it and like YOLO and let's see where this journey is going to take us. But I just feel more comfortable in the space of being just super honest. I have certain friends who will text me and be like, my kid's being an a hole today. And I'm like, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, you didn't call him that. I'm like, yeah, what do you do now? You know,
Yeah.
like, it's just hard, and the moms that aren't honest about that, I don't relate to that. It's hard for me.
So I what I'm here I love what you're talking about around the sort of what I call the messy mom. Like we're real. We're actual real people. We're doing the best. My entire family has a flu shot, but my 6-year-old does not because she decided to get completely freaked out the day we were going and screamed bloody murder in the middle of CVS.
Oh
And I
gosh.
took her out and it was like, okay, I guess we're not doing a flu shot today.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
not the day.
that's like it, and you know what? I probably should have posted that on Instagram because I feel like that would have been something that every mom on earth would be like, "Oh, I've been there." I mean,
Yeah.
I have this, my favorite photo ever of my middle one when he was 2 is a timeout that we did in the parking lot at Costco. And he's sitting on the curb.
Bringing kids to
And it's
Costco, that's
like, to
bold.
me, that's the reality of motherhood and childhood and bringing our kids into the world where they are at. We can't ask them to be anywhere else other
Right.
than where they are in any given moment.
Yeah.
So you have been a really strong and powerful ally for women by writing about the importance of allowing each woman to have her own process as a mother and stopping the comparisons. And I just want to lift that up and saying again, stopping the comparisons. How do you see that we can help each other find those moments to lift each other up instead of taking each other down?
I remember when my oldest was a baby and I went to Target with her and she wasn't having tantrums yet. She wasn't even at that age, but I was struggling. I was having a very hard time. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna put her in the stroller. No, she doesn't like the stroller. I'm gonna take her out of the stroller. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, she's hungry. She did. And I was freaking out. And this one mom came up to me, stranger, still don't know who she is. And she was just like, I've been there. It's gonna get better. And like, I just will never forget her. And then another time, it was my daughter was 9 months old, and we went on an airplane, which why I don't know. We thought we would be fun to go on a vacation. And, my daughter cried like from the second her ears hurt as the plane took off. She never recovered. She cried the whole time. And I had spit up on me and I looked like I had been in a war. And another mom came up to me. She goes, "Can I hold your baby? Please, can I hold your baby for you?" And I
Blessing
handed
angel.
over
Oh
my
my
baby
gosh.
to a stranger. Like I mean, it seems crazy, but I'll never forget her. It was just so nice that she did that because my husband was feeling the same way as me. We were both like, it's that new parent thing. We were like, can't get a grip on any of it. And I brought everybody in the airplane like earplugs and chocolates, and like I thought it was going to be so cute and fun. Like, what a fun mom, how thoughtful. But really, I was like about to jump off the airplane, and yeah, that woman, and I remember her husband tweeted me like 6 months later. She's like, "My wife held your baby." I was like, "Please, like, I hope I was like grateful enough towards her. Like, thank her for me. That was the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me." So I think more of that, more of, and we don't have to show all of the messy stuff all the time. Like, I think there's another side to that also, where I sometimes will get messages of people saying like, "Your daughter's gonna be so mad at you that you posted that picture of her crying in the Costco parking lot or whatever." People see both sides of it. So it's kind of like a slippery slope. But just more honesty, more support, more lifting each other up. And the comparison game is so silly because no one's journey is the same. No one's going to have the same opinions. And the people who like think that they're doing it the best way or the right way are, that's what we need less of for sure.
Yeah, I think that the more that we can have the opportunity to have the, "Hey, can I hold your baby?" Or even just a, "Hey, I see you."
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's sometimes enough, right? "Hey, I see you. This is
Yeah, because you
hard, but
think
we
everyone
got
around you
this."
hates you and wants you at a Target, but if you have some mom letting you know, like, I mean, I've seen moms like drag their kids out of Target, by their hoods of their sweaters because they won't get out of the toy aisle, and I'm like, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yep.
I've never dragged a kid, but it's like you've seen them do that, and it's like, yeah, I know that where that mom is at. She's gonna get in her car, she's gonna slam the door, and she's gonna sob hysterically.
Yep. And we have to love that part of her just as much as we love and allow it in ourselves too. What you
Yeah,
were saying, sometimes, yeah, sometimes we do have those moments where we cry in our cars. Like, that's real. That's completely
totally.
real. And it's part of the journey. It's part of who we are. And the more that we can say those things honestly, and I do agree, I think there's a balance, how much do we need to share? What's really important to share? Why do we share? Like, I think that why factor is big.
Huge. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and I feel like for my job, I don't have to post, but in a way, you kind of do. Like, you have to keep it up, and like, people are, not expecting. I don't know. The whole thing's so strange, but you know what I'm saying. And there have been so
Mhm.
many things that I'm like about to post, and I'm like, why am I posting this? This is so stupid. Like, nobody needs to know this. This is really no one's business. And then I won't actually wind up doing it half the time because you get so heady about it. But another thing I wanted to say about on my last thing that I was just talking about is how important it is for us to apologize to our kids, because I love my parents, but that wasn't something that was ever in our home. If you did something bad and you got in trouble, and maybe your mom said something to you out of anger or whatever, I think, that's one thing that I've really practiced with my kids, and why I think we have like a pretty, I don't know what they would say, but I feel like we have a pretty great relationship because, last night, as I was telling you, yesterday was just a hard, really hard day for me. And I felt more overwhelmed than I've ever felt in my life. And then our dog got all her shots and she was sick and limping and I was freaking out. Like everything was going wrong. And I snapped at my daughter. I was like, please just go to bed. I can't deal with you right now. I'm the last thing I want. And it was 10 o'clock at night. She was still like the 9-year-old still thought she was having, a party, and it made me so mad. But I went and apologized to her because she didn't do anything. She was just trying to help. And I was probably stressing her out because the dog wasn't feeling well and mom's off the rails. And like, so it's 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with them. And I think it's just so important for us to let them know, hey, I am not a perfect person. My life is a little cray cray right now. And I took it out on you and I'm really sorry.
I find saying I'm sorry to my kids it is so important. And I do think that those of us who work in acting and storytelling, and because empathy is so much a part of our language and vocabulary, that the opportunity to practice that at work, I don't know about you, but I find that helps me bring it home as well.
Yeah.
Is, when you're spending all day thinking about how can I bring this character more depth, or as a director, how can I communicate to my actors the importance of this moment because of the empathy it can build with an audience. And then to go home, if we give ourselves the space and the bandwidth to take those deep breaths, that it is easier for us to bring that into our homes.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
So you are also directing. Tell me about your journey as a director.
So my journey as a director, it's a very interesting story. It was kind of, one of those, sorry, let me get rid of this alert. It was one of those moments where I hadn't worked in a second as an actress, and I had all this content that I wanted to put out into the world. And crying once again. I cry a lot. To my husband at a bar on like a Saturday night. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm banging my head against the wall and I work so hard and nothing's like moving the needle. And he was like, what about all these scripts you've written? Why don't you put something out there? And I thought, can I do that? And, he really encouraged me and pushed me to make a short. And I interviewed directors for it. I cast it. We did all the things. And all the directors that I met with weren't really understanding what I was trying to envision and my, whole creative touch on it. We just I didn't find the person who I felt was going to be the best person at the helm. And then I was like driving home from one kind of horrible meeting. And I thought from this one man who said I was going to waste so much money because had children actors in the project. And if I got rid of the kids, the project would be funny. And I was like, well, that's literally it's about a preschool. And I thought, why am I not directing this? I could direct it. And I did. And then I got the bug for directing. And so then I took about 2 years off from acting and I shadowed every director that I possibly could find. I learned as much as I could. Anytime I was acting on a set, I would shadow the director and make sure that, I was, of course, I would ask beforehand if that was okay, because a lot of directors don't like that. But yeah, I just did as much as I could to get to the next level where people would take me seriously. And then I got a Christmas movie with Lifetime about 2 years later, and that was it. I was off and running after that. I had the bug bad.
There's so many levels of what you just described. So first of all, as a woman, we are so trained to say, oh, well, we don't have experience doing this, so we can't do this. And I love the fact that you said, actually, I'm going to be the one to do this because I'm right for it and I can see that. Mm-hmm. So go you on that. And then the idea that you took the time to shadow and be a beginner at something. I mean, particularly within an industry that you've been working for so many years, to say, hey, I'm willing to say there's a part of this industry that I don't know about and I want to learn. That takes a huge amount of bravery. And I just want to recognize that. And I think that's really awesome.
Thank you.
And also the fact that you're reflecting that your daughters are watching you do that it's really cool. So you
Thanks.
have this upcoming movie, Blending Christmas. Can
Yep.
you tell us a little about the movie and what's that been like for you?
Yeah, that one's actually really funny because if you would have told me when I was like sick at home, when I was like 9 or 10 years old watching Brady Bunch episodes, that I would one day be directing the Bradys, I would never ever believe you. But it's it's a good old fashioned Christmas movie that stars almost all the Bradys, most of them, and Haley Duff, who is an old friend of mine. It was my very first job back
Amazing.
from the pandemic. So, and it was one of those things that Haley and I kept texting each other. I'm like, I'm so glad you're going to be there. And she was like, I'm so glad you're going to be there. I haven't stepped foot on a set either. And so just having like someone you know and love there and you can lean on each other and have like the utmost support was so exciting. And, it was our first time on set with masks and shields and goggles and testing and all of this stuff. So it was like a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's coming on December 12th on Lifetime. And yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Well, I think it sounds like a ton of fun. I love the fact that you were able to do it with friends that you were trusted, because that was a weird and scary moment to be like, I didn't do art for a long time and now I have to come back and do it, but oh, that's right, I have to do it with a mask and with goggles and I have to have that level of anxiety that I've never had on this, like all of that. So I'm excited to watch it, and I think it sounds like a lot of fun because I too watched a lot of Brady Bunch as a kid.
It was the best thing
All
to
right,
watch. Like that and Price is Right. That's like what you would watch when you were younger and like homesick.
Yes. Oh, God, I'd forgotten. That's right. The Price is Right. Because
Best.
unlike our children who think that you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want, there were
They'll
these
never
things
know.
known as like stations and commercials.
Yeah, or like running home after school to like make sure you got home to watch something, or if you're at dinner with your family and you're like, we have to get home, I'm gonna miss my show. They'll never know.
100%. We knew it. Oh, yeah. We knew the schedule. I mean, to be totally direct, you were on my schedule. So.
I love that.
All right. 3-question speed round. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 1, if you could invent one completely crazy thing that doesn't currently exist and would make parenting a little bit easier, what would it be?
A patience button. Like a button I could push. A button I could push that would like smack me out of it and give me some patience. And I'm assuming
Patience
that gets
button.
harder
It's
with
kind
each
of like,
child, right?
yes and no. By the time the third one is a toddler, you just laugh about everything because
Oh, okay,
you know
good.
what's coming.
Right.
Right? So like when they're 2 and like they're like throwing themselves on the ground, you're like, "Oh, look how funny. They think it's a tantrum. Wait till you're 4." So
Let us
I would
know
say
when
it
you're
gets
done, friend.
yeah, the poor third kid is like, "But I just am trying to tell you I'm upset." And we're like, "Yeah, we
Yeah.
see that."
Yeah.
Anyone needs macaroni and cheese?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Question 2. What is the first creative product, like a music, book, painting, a play, a musical, that you can remember feeling inspired by or connected to?
I would say Les Miserables. I saw that. Well, first, I think my mom started playing like the CD in the car, and I was obviously obsessed with Cosette. And then we saw it. I think it was at the Orpheum, maybe, like 4 times, and I was so obsessed. Like it got me bad, and that was it. I was like, I will play Eponine one day. Now I am too old. I'm too old, but I really wanted to play Eponine.
But did your 12-year-old self sing Castle on a Cloud in your fake microphone?
All the time. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, she had to do pick a song for school, and she picked Castle on the Cloud, and I was so proud. I was like, yay.
All right, last question. What is the one word or phrase you say most often when you are talking to your kids?
So I stole this from a friend, and I will give her credit. Carrie Goldberg taught me this. I always say to them, go where the love is. And especially at this
Mm.
age, I have a 4th grader and I have a 1st grader, and they're both girls. And there's a lot of I wouldn't say mean girls. They're having their stuff. And I was upset one day about another kid at school with, whatever. And my friend Carrie said to me, just tell her, go where the love is. Stop. Because she was like a moth to a fly, kept going to a moth to a flame. Sorry. She was a moth to a flame with this group of kids that weren't being kind to her. And I couldn't understand it. Like, why do you keep hanging out with them then? So I just say that all the time. Whenever we're in the midst of a conversation about, and it's not dismissive, it's just like, I want to remind them, like, go where the love is. Because as you get older, that's really important because you're choosing your friends and you're choosing who you want to hang out with and who's supportive of you.
Go where the love is. Marla, this has been so beautiful. I got to tell you, just listening to you talk about parenting and your own journey, I've felt like I'm going where the love is today. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your journey with us. I loved talking to Marla. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I'm really reflecting on how she talked about working with her own child now that her child is interested in becoming an actress, and where it's okay for us as parents and moms to be experts and where really our kids need to figure it out ourselves, and finding that balance. I'm sure you have had those moments as well, for those of you out there who have kids who get excited about the same things that you do but want to do it on their own, and letting them find that path. It's a challenge and also a joy. Thank you again to all our incredible listeners. I have been so astounded by how many listeners we have and the response we're getting from this podcast. Upcoming, we've got the managing editor of Romper, the online resource for parents. We also have a professor of creativity. And I've got in the new year, a special episode with somebody who has been very involved with Hamilton on the choreography side. So I think, he also has an amazing 6-year-old daughter who he dances with. So there's a lot coming up. Please like, follow, share, all of the things, and enjoy your creative day.